welcome you all on this beautiful day to have a wonderful class. Myself, Vasanth, and I'm a biology faculty, IIT-JEE aspirants. And here today we are going to join to learn about a particular chapter in class 10 that's called How Do Organisms Reproduce. So let's get into the class. Okay, shall we? So just allow me some time to get the PPT up and running. Okay. So I hope everybody could see my screen. So now when we talk about how do organisms reproduce, so there are various ways. Okay, in your previous classes, especially in class 8, like you have a particular chapter where you would have studied about reproduction on organisms, and even in class 7 you study about reproduction in organisms. Now we are going to study the same chapter in detail, a little bit detail. Okay, I'm going to give you more information so that it will help you understand the process of reproduction a little wider and broader with an aspect of thinking. Okay, so now when we talk about reproduction, so what is reproduction? So that's, let's say, like let's imagine something better. Okay, so now there are two organisms. Let's say your father and mother. Okay, so they both have got married at a very young age. So when they got married, they gave birth to you. Okay, and you are going to be the successor of the family. You are going to be the successor. So what do you mean by successor? So the organism which is going to carry the name of the family and the qualities of the family and the characteristics of the family forward into the future. Okay, so that is the process, main important process of reproduction. So when you talk about reproduction and two organisms or one organism, so these are different types. So any organism which is going to join together and then produce a new offspring, we call them as sexual reproduction. And when we have only one single organism, a parent, who produces a new individual, okay, or themselves divided into two different new individuals or two same new individual, then we call them the asexual reproduction. Okay, so let's get into the topic. Okay, so now I'm going to narrate on whatever things that you're going to see today. So the first thing is the topics covered. We're going to have an introduction, which we already had. We're going to see types of reproduction, and after that we're going to have a detailed structure of what are the types of asexual reproduction and what is asexual reproduction. The types are given over here, like fission, binary fission and multiple fission. We will study about those in detail, like with all the differences with few examples. Okay, and then we'll know what about fragmentation. We'll study what about budding. We'll know what about regeneration and spore formation. So these are the important things that we are going to talk about. So after this, okay, we will go into the content so that we will know a lot. Okay. So next thing is how do organisms reproduce? So the main point that we need to know about is chain of life. What is chain of life? Chain of life is where one organism, okay, it survives. Okay, it survives in this very earth. So when they die, so they are going to leave something to move forward so that it can prove its existence. So that process is believed to be reproduction. Okay, that process is believed to be reproduction. So how do they do that? When they reproduce, the cell and its contents will be duplicated. So one cell duplicates into another. So in simple words, there will be duplication of cells. There will be duplication of cells. There will be duplication of cells. So in this process, they are going to duplicate all the content of the cell into the next generation cells. So which includes genes. So genes are the chemical substances which is going to code for the characteristic feature that the parent possesses and the organisms which is going to come forward will also be possessed. So those are called the factors. So that is addressed, that was previously addressed as factors. Now it is called as genes, which is going to be the fundamental substance which is going to take care of the expression of the characteristics. So this, when is this genetic material acquired from? It is acquired from the prehistoric way. So the genetic material was believed to be formed first, and from that there were a lot of modifications. So one after another, one after another, one after another. So these modifications resulted in formation of a new organism every time it gets changed. So when it gets changed, a new organism will be formed. And when this new organism will be formed, that will be categorized. So I hope you all remember studying about diversity chapter in class 9. So in that, we studied about different groups, different orders, different kingdom of organisms, right? So all the organisms were divided based on their similarities and differences. When they have more similarities, they are kept together. When they have more differences, they are separated into different groups, right? So same way, how did this characteristic difference were acquired? That is because of the change in the genetic material. So when the genetic material changes, okay, it leads to evolution. So this evolution leads to new individual. This process happens majorly by the process of reproduction. Okay, that's the most important thing that you need to know. And this process is very important so that there will be an existence of organism in every path of the earth. Okay, so if there is no organism, if the reproduction doesn't exist, what happens? Extinction. So when there is going to be just a female organism which relies on sexual reproduction and there is no male, then it is obvious that they will not be able to mate and they will not be able to produce a new individual. So that's obvious, don't you think? So let's get to the next slide. So there are different types of reproduction, as we have already narrated. I've just briefed. Now you're going to learn them in detail. So there are two different types of reproduction. One is sexual, another one is asexual. So which one came before? It was asexual. Primarily, there were not much complexity in the genetic material. When there is no complexity in the genetic material, life was very simple. It was like bacteria and all those things. When it gets complex here, complex here, and complex, so it became sexual reproduction. So sexual reproduction was actually a part of evolution, and it has become a main key for the process of evolution. So that's very important. So what are the types? So we're going to see all of them, the differences between them in respect to characteristics in detail in the next tabular columns. Okay. So we have different characteristics. I have asexual reproduction over here and I have sexual reproduction tabulated over here. So when we have different characteristics, number of organisms involved, when you have number of organisms involved, so it comes to asexual. So what does the term asexual and sexual means? Okay. So when there is no sexual differentiation, we call them sexual dimorphism. So what is dimorphism? Di, M-O-R-P-H-I-S-M, dimorphism. Di means two and morphism means morphological characteristics. Morphology. Okay, morphology. So two different units. So this will be exhibited in sexual reproduction. And asexual is no sexual dimorphism. So there will be only one individual that will be giving birth to the individual themselves. So that is the difference between asexual and sexual. There is no sexual dimorphism. There will be no male, there will be no female. That is asexual reproduction. When there is going to be a dimorphism of male and female, then it results in sexual reproduction. So when it comes to asexual reproduction, because there is no sexual dimorphism, it is going to be only one parent. Okay, it requires only one parent to execute the process of asexual reproduction. And when there is a requirement of two parents in sexual reproduction, there is requirement of mate. So choosing a mate again is a lengthy, tedious process. Okay, I'll tell you more about these things. The second thing is cell division. So we all know, because we studied this in this chapter called Fundamental Units of Life. So fundamental units of life, there we studied a theory called cell theory. In that, the third law states that, which was actually proposed by Virchow. Okay, he said that the cells that come into existence, they came they came from the pre-existing cell, so which is already existing in this very world. So there is always a process which makes new cells. So that process is called cell division. So the cell division kind of takes place in two different ways, in asexual and sexual reproduction. So the cells divide by binary fission in different processes by binary fission, which means like, fission, like, mitosis, you call them mitosis. Mitosis, that's a basic concept on which it is divided. It is actually type of mitosis is divided into fission, budding, and regeneration. So all the type of cell division that asexual reproduction going to take place will be mitotic. And the sexual reproduction, for the purpose of reproduction, the cell will be undergoing a type of division called meiosis, which is also known as reductional division. Okay, reductional division, or EDUCTIONAL, reductional division. So what is mitosis then? Mitosis is called somatic division, SOMA, somatic division. What is somatic? Soma means body. So body cells. Okay, body division. So next one, there are different types. So those types include based on how the cells are going to be, how the new individuals are going to be formed. Okay, so one is budding. Okay, another one is vegetative reproduction, another one is fragmentation and spore formation. So there are lists. So it also contains many differences that you'll be studying only higher classes. But in the case of sexual reproduction, we are going to have syngamy and conjugation. So what is syngamy? Whenever you have a scientific term, you can split them accordingly and you can understand the meaning of the term from that term themselves. Syngamy, or synchronization or union of gametes, it's called syngamy. Okay, and the next one is conjugation. Conjugation is just union of two individuals. So these are the two different types of two different types how the sexual reproduction actually takes place. Next, you see the advantages. What are the advantages of asexual reproduction? When you talk about advantages of asexual reproduction, it is time efficient. Okay, excuse me. It is time efficient and it doesn't need to search a mate. Why? Because there is only one individual involved. Okay, and it doesn't have to wait for another organism to get engaged into the process of reproduction. So it is very time efficient and it doesn't have the requirement to search for a mate. And when it is not required to search for a mate, it is obvious it doesn't need to engage in the process of reproduction with another organism, which is very energy consuming. So it also requires less amount of energy. Okay. So when you talk about the advantages of sexual reproduction, it creates a lot of variation. So what is variation? That is what we are going to study in the next chapter, which is heredity and evolution. So what is variation? Variation is differences that is created by the small or slight changes that is caused by the process of meiosis. During the process of meiosis, there will be differences that will be created. Even mutation causes variations. But the mutations could actually end up negative also. And the differences that is going to be, the different combinations created because the variation could also be negative. But mostly it will be positive in nature. So when the sexual reproduction is happening, so the individual produced will be unique in nature. So how? So I know that most of the people who are actually enjoying this class would be having a cousin, or a blood brother or a blood sister, a sibling. I mean, so both of you are born for the same parent, but both of you don't look alike. How? Because this is where the meiosis plays its role. So during the process of formation of gametes, the genetic material segregation will be varying. There will be 4 different types of gametes formed for every cell that undergoes division of meiosis. So a unique probability of combination could be created by varying genetic material possessing gametes. Now, the organism is more protected. So what do you mean the organism is more protected? Because there will be 2 parents involved and all the evolved characteristics would actually make the individual more protected in nature. Okay, so that's what the third point is. So now when you talk about disadvantages, so disadvantages is just the opposite of the advantages of the other one. So if you see the advantages of asexual reproduction is the disadvantages of sexual reproduction, and the advantages of sexual reproduction is just disadvantage of asexual reproduction. So here in asexual reproduction there is no variation, but that was opposite in sexual reproduction, right? And if the parent has a genetic disease, then it will be having no variation, so it will be like passed down to next generation again and again and again. Okay, so that is going to be a major problem. So there will be no possibility of, there will be like very least possibility of evolutionary perspective, and there will be the new individual formation, new characteristic combination produced will be like very less. And when you talk about when you talk about the sexual reproduction part, the disadvantages, it requires two organisms. So one cannot engage in the process of reproduction, and always two individuals are required in the process of reproduction. So which requires a lot of time and a lot of energy to be spent on that process. And during the process of reproduction, which is copulation, after the mate is found, they engage in copulation. That's where the deposition of the male gamete into the female gamete takes place. So that requires a tedious process. That requires laborious process. That's an more energy consuming process. Okay, so these are the disadvantages of sexual reproduction. So when you talk in the evolutionary perspective, okay, in the asexual reproduction, the possibility of genetic changes, the possibility of changes in the genetic material will be very, very less. Okay, very little chance of variation. So as a result of which, there will be no possibility of evolution. So there will be no organisms the possibility of organism forming sooner will be very less. So that's something that you need to look into. And when you talk about sexual reproduction, it's like best when it comes to creating variations. So because of the combinations of genetic material that is combining with each other, a sperm and a ovum combining with each other will create a perfect variation that is distinctive to one another. Okay, so in lots of movies you see suddenly the father and the child looks literally same, and then the brothers will be like three brothers together and literally same. I'm not saying it is not possible at all. It is possible, but it is way too rare to be possible. And even if it is going to be happening, there will be more possibilities of genetic diseases, because the mother and the father, they'll be like very close relatives. So when they are going to be having the consanguineous marriages, which is marrying a first cousin stuff, so that will cause homozygosity and then more genetic disorders to evolve. So that is actually wrong. So when we go to the involvement of sex cells, so there will be no sex cell formation. What do you mean sex cells? Sex cells are nothing but gametes. Okay, a simple term for gametes. So when you talk about gametes, there is no gamete formation in the asexual reproduction, and gamete formation is exclusively important in sexual reproduction. Okay, so that's how a probability of creating a new set of individuals with genetic variation is achieved. Okay, that's one important thing. So asexual reproduction is found to happen in lower organisms. So when you say lower organisms are organisms which will not have an explicitly a better characteristics that will make them look complex in nature. In simple, bacteria, virus, and all those things. Okay, so when you go to the cell gamete formation, you have gamete formation in sexual reproduction. So they have an exclusive process called gametogenesis. I repeat, gametogenesis. G-A-M-E, gamete, M-E-T-O, gameto, G-E-N-E-S-I-S, gametogenesis. So what is gametogenesis? Genesis means formation or forming new. Gamete formation. So if you break any scientific term, mostly you will get the meaning of it. So that's how you have to study the terms of the scientific terms. Okay, mostly, and it is the unit of reproduction. And before going to that, we'll see where this sexual reproduction is actually found. It is found both in vertebrates, most of the vertebrates or all vertebrates, but in certain invertebrates also. So I'm very sure that if you remember the difference between vertebrates and invertebrates, which you studied in the chapter, biodiversity chapter in 9th standard, you would clearly understand this process. Now, unit of reproduction. So the unit of reproduction will be like, maybe whole parent body or bud or a fragment or a single somatic cell. So the organism which will be formed will be what type? It can be a single cell. It can be a part of the body of the parent themselves in asexual reproduction. But in the case of sexual reproduction, the organism formed will be from the gametes only. So union of the male and the female gamete, male and the female gamete, results in formation of zygote. This zygote will undergo multiple division and then it forms an embryo, and the embryo will grow into an individual according to the genetic makeup that it contains. Okay. So next thing is time taken. The time taken for asexual reproduction is like very short. Can you believe a bacteria can actually reproduce in 20 minutes? Yes. But what about an elephant? Do you know how much time does an elephant take to actually give birth to its young one? Almost 2 years. Okay, and human being is 9 to 10 months. So when you talk about sexual reproduction, it can take several months to complete. So as I've told you, I've given an example. So in the asexual reproduction, it takes a very short period of time, right? So the number of offspring formed will be like 2 or more. So that's something that you need to understand over here. So in asexual reproduction, you have more organisms formed, and sexual reproduction have very less organisms formed. No, it differs and varies from animal to animal, organism to organism. So when you talk about certain organism, it produces only 2. When you say, example, binary fission, that's actually a type of asexual reproduction that you studied even in 8th standard. So in that process, one cell divides to 2. So these 2 cells will be formed. And the same way, there is another type of fission called multiple fission, which I want to study in detail now. So those types will produce multiple number of cells, n number of cells. When we don't know the exact number, we use n, the alphabet n, to represent the organism. Okay, so 2 or more number could be produced. Now, sexual reproduction, 1 or more individual is formed. So when an elephant actually gives birth, so only one individual, only one calf comes out. And then when a parent actually gives birth, like, only one child gives birth. So what about other animals like pigs and then bats, rats, and then mice and all those things? Yeah, they give rise to more individuals. Why? And their life cycle is also, their pregnancy cycle is also very less time. 3 months, 2 months, sometimes 1 month also. Even dogs litter, okay, and then puppies are born, and then like kittens actually are born from when a cat actually lays. So when the number of individuals is higher in these organisms, why? Because we are like intellectually well done. Okay, so when we do that, when we have that capability to take care and nurture our young ones, so the probability of survival increases. But when it comes to the other animals which cannot have that kind of an intelligence and take care of things and stuff, so their probability of existence will be very less. And the most important point is human being can hunt almost everything, but cat is food, or the kittens can be food for most of the organisms. An eagle, a dog, or even ants, even a centipede, it can be a millipede, anything. It can be eaten and killed by anything. So that's why it has more number of organisms probability. So when you have this process going on, you can understand the number of individuals are more and more, produce more in number, just to ensure the survival probability of the individual. You understand the point now? Very good. So I hope you all understood the complete differentiate between of asexual and sexual reproduction. So let's jump into the next slides and then learn something more interesting. Okay. So this is what we studied. We studied about asexual reproduction also, in detail. So we'll go into the content. So the first type of asexual reproduction is fission. So what is fission? Fission is breaking. So breaking of one single, or breaking, is fission. So what is fusion? Fusion is union of 2 things into 1. So this is, okay, fusion, and this is fission. Okay, now we are going to talk about fission and not fusion. So fusion will be happening in sexual reproduction, and fission is found in asexual reproduction. Okay, so now when it comes to fission, there are two types. One, we are going to talk about binary. So in computers, you would have studied about binary. What is binary? Binary means two. Okay, binary means two. The same way, one cell divides into two individuals. So that's called a binary system. That's called a binary system. Now, when a cell actually undergoes division, it from its existing cell, so it needs to divide its components equally to both the cells, right? If not, then one cell formed will be having so one cell formed will be having X, another cell formed will be having Y. But for the cells to survive, both X and Y is important. So the cell will not be able to survive. So what does happen is there are different things that happens. One, during the process of cell division, the cell's content is duplicated. What do you mean duplication? Another copy of the existing content is created. So as a result of which, the cell will increase in size. Cell will increase in size. Now, I will give you a representation of it. See, this is cell. Okay, this is a O. So due to accumulation process, it will become a 0, a bigger one. If you type it in any Word or PowerPoint, you will understand the difference. So after that, okay, it becomes an 8, and then after that, it becomes 2 O's. How? Because this process is a single cell. Now, the duplication of content. So what is duplication of content? It's genetic material, cellular components, and cytoplasmic medium. All these three contents are duplicated or replicated, or another set of it is produced. So as a result of which, the cell size increases. So when the cell size is increased, it is ready to undergo division. So the cell's division is divided into two important steps. Okay, this is KARYO, karyo, KINESIS, karyokinesis, and then kinesis, cytokinesis. So what is karyokinesis and what is cytokinesis? Because karyo means nuclear, kinesis means division, separation, moving apart. Okay, and cyto means here doesn't mean cell. Cyto is usually means cell, but here it means cytoplasmic medium. Okay, the cytoplasmic kinesis, division, cytoplasmic departure. So here you can see in this part the karyokinesis takes place. See, there is a black color thread-like structure of a bacteria. That is the genetic material, and then the blue color, which is the duplicated part. And this is the genetic material, the additional genetic material that is found in bacteria. Now you see there are two copies, copy number 1, copy number 2. Now karyokinesis is over. So now it proceeds with cytokinesis. What is cytokinesis? Cytoplasmic division. Cytoplasmic division is just forming a structure in between, a groove, and then the groove gets connected and the cell gets departed away. So that is cytoplasmic division. So this is how binary fission takes place. This is found in amoeba, this is found in bacteria, and this is found in several single cellular organisms. Most of the single cellular organisms, not every, several. Okay, most. Now, binary fission, does it have any way to undergo? See, when I actually comb my hair, I do it like this. Some people comb it on the other way. Some people comb it from the side, right? So the axis in which we comb our hair is very different. Don't you think? Yes. So do they have any particular axis in which the cell division divides? Certain cells contain such properties, quality. So here we have, okay, a cell called Leishmania. Okay, this is actually a protozoan. So this protozoan actually has a flagella. Okay, so the axis of division will be on the axis of the flagella. That's why the dark black line in the center, not in the center, the axis of the flagella. So that's how the leishmania actually undergoes division. So these are the types. So axial binary fission, and this is the normal binary fission. These are the different types of binary fission. Now, the second part of fission is going to be multiple fission. So multiple fission is where I told you what is fission is. Fission is division. 1 divides to 2, right? That is binary. So what if 1 divides to many number of cells? So that's multiple fission. So 1 divides to form, 1 cell divides to form many other cells. So these cells are responsible for the process of reproduction, will be responsible for the process of reproduction. So this type of reproduction is found in, easy example, malaria causing Plasmodium parasite. Okay, it's actually a parasite, a protozoan. So this malaria causing parasitic protozoan actually undergoes a multiple fission that results in formation of a cell which consists of multiple number of cells. So that's what you can see over here. So it has a single cell and it has only one nucleus, and this nucleus will undergo multiple division. Okay, and then cytoplasmic medium will also be enclosing them, and as a result of which, what happens, there will be a complete cyst-like structure formed, and all the cells will be like enclosed and will be present inside the cyst. And upon favorable condition, the cyst will be broken down and all the cells will be released out, and this causes infection, okay, in malaria. So this process is called multiple fission. The fission that causes production of multiple cells is called multiple fission. Okay, you got the point? Now, we'll go to the next topic. Next topic is fragmentation. So what is fragmentation? Fragmentation is breaking down. Okay, breaking down. Breaking. Okay, so one single organism. So can we undergo fragmentation? Definitely no. This is a frequently asked question. So why can't we undergo fragmentation? So because we can also easily undergo fragmentation, right? So I'll tell you a few things why we cannot undergo fragmentation, and even if we undergo fragmentation with respect to that, what could be the problem that we'll be executing. Okay, so it happens in a multicellular organism which has only cellular level organization. So it will be like multiple cells that are arranged on one another. So the example that you see here is a spirogyra. It is called spirogyra because the chloroplast is arranged in the spiral form in the cell. Okay, and this organism will undergo fragmentation only upon maturation. I repeat, maturation. So what is maturation? It needs to grow up to a particular size, and only after that the cell will be dividing into multiple cells, and each cell that is divided will form a new organism. Once it matures, they all divide again. So it proceeds further, one after another. So that is called fragmentation. So why can't we undergo? I told you already, the cells, the organism which actually have only cellular level organization will be undergoing this. So this also you studied in the chapter biodiversity in living organisms in 9th standard, and that chapter we studied that the different organisms which had cellular level, okay, and then tissue level, okay, and organ level, and then organ system level, okay, organ system level. And this is the differentiation that we are in, and this is the differentiation that the spirogyra is. So it is just multicellular structure which has only one type of cells that are arranged together and then undergoes growth and multiplication, division, survival, everything. But we have several type of tissues. This also you studied in tissues chapter 9th standard. So we are made up of several type of tissues that all combine to form organs, and several types of organs combine to form organ system, and that organ system together works in coordinated way, and then that causes the process of functioning. So you studied about the coordination in the previous chapter, the control and the coordination chapter, which involves both the nervous system and the endocrine system. Okay, so now when we talk about fragmentation again, so fragmentation is like a very simple procedure or a process that happens only in a very primitive organism, which is cellular level body organization. Okay, but we are like organ system level body organization. And when we talk about us, if we start reproducing in fragmentation, we will stop getting variations. Instead, we will get only one funny thing. So what is that funny thing that happens? It is just that the organism will be like, very replicative. It will be like just me, whenever it's fragment. It will be just you. So we will not be able to see a complex amalgamation of an organism, okay, with their combination of genetic materials. That happens only in sexual reproduction. That makes the uniqueness in organism that undergo sexual reproduction. And that is not possible in fragmentation. So that's an FAQ. Okay. So next thing that we're going to talk about is budding. So you have two organisms, and this looks like a potato which has a lot of growth and disgusting. And another one looks very familiar, right? So this is yeast, okay, Saccharomyces cerevisiae, and this is Hydra. Okay, so this Hydra is actually, this is a real picture. Both of them are real picture. This is not microscopic, but this is a microscopic organism, right? So what is budding? Budding is again similar to binary fission, but the parent will be surviving or existing, and the new individual formed will be forming strands, and then they will get released into new individuals. They'll be piled up. Okay, so see the type of asexual reproduction. Okay, a new individual develop. Okay, anatomical point of the parent organism. As I told you, see, this is actually a bud forming. This is also a bud forming. So all the things I am circling are the buds forming. Okay, so these buds actually protrudes and then develops into a new organism. Okay, in certain special types of buds, okay, they also produce at any point. So this is one particular, and then in any particular point would be Hydra. Okay, at that region, at this specific region. Okay, so now what happens in this over here? So the organism formed new will be leaving out of the parent. So the parent will be existing. So that's the difference between budding and binary fission. So the parent will be existing, but in the binary fission, the parent or the mother cell will be divided into two daughter cells. So some questions. One of my students actually asked me, sir, why is it called mother cell and the newly formed cells are called daughter cells? Why not father and son cells? Okay. See, our knowledge helps us understand that only a mother can give birth. You understand that? We always, anything from which a new life is formed, anything which gives promising, we always give that a feminine gender. Okay. So we call mother earth. Okay. And then, sea also, mother sea. So all these things, anything which has life, which contains life, which gives life. So likewise, so when in bacteria, the organism which is going to undergo division, and it is going to form a new organism, we call that as mother cell. And whatever that is going to form, okay, is also going to undergo multiplication in the future, and it is going to divide into two in the future. So can it give birth to a boy and then later it transforms into a girl and then divide? Definitely not. So that's why it is a mother cell and then two daughter cells are formed. I hope you are clear with this. Okay. So this is actually like a clear explanation about budding process. Now, when we talk about budding, it is a very interesting process because Saccharomyces cerevisiae, the yeast part, we use it in several food industries. Okay, so you should remember this. So let's go to the next thing. The next thing is regeneration. Okay, so most of you have doubts in this thing. So what kind of doubt do you have? Okay, let's discuss all those things too. So first of all, let's see what is regeneration. Generation is forming. Okay, what is regeneration? Forming from which is already formed. That is regeneration. So when can this happen? So what if this pinky finger of mine, okay, a small part is lost. Can it regroup? I can hear you people saying no. Okay, I'll take that. So why? Do you remember in tissues chapter in 9th standard, you studied something about meristematic tissue in plants? Yes, meristematic tissue. So that is a reproductive cell or a growth tissue. Okay, that is responsible for growth of organism. Same way in animals, we have something called stem cell. The stem cell is responsible for cellular multiplication, and those multiplied cells will be forming new tissue. Okay, so that process will be happening. But in us, we will have tissues formed, and those tissues are not from the stem cells. But there are certain type of cells. There's a type of stem cells. Okay, stem cells involve two types. Okay, pluripotent and totipotent. So what is pluripotent and what is totipotent? Okay, totipotent stem cells are one which can give rise to whole new individual. Okay, pluripotent can give rise to only parts of individual. Okay, individual. So now when these type of organisms like planaria is an example, has a huge mass of cell, okay, huge mass of cell, type of cell. So this cells contains pluripotent nature. So they give rise to a completely new organism. Okay? That's what we are going to see now. The process of getting back full organism from the body parts is called regeneration, any part. Okay. So when it comes to a planaria, so we are cutting planaria over here, over here. Okay, we have three parts. This is one, the head fragment, this is the pharynx fragment, and this here is a tail fragment. So after giving them some time, okay, you can see that this is day 0. This is the part when we have left. Okay, in the C section, you can see that it is trying to form a structure, right? In the third day, the head region, you can see the formation of pharynx. This is pharynx. This is this region over here. Okay, and here you can see the pharynx is formed and the tail will be formed over here. And here it forms, it already has pharynx. This is a middle piece, pharynx piece. So this already has pharynx. You can see that this two dot-like structure form, okay, that is getting developed over here, and that is getting developed over here, and then tail is also protruded to the end. So new organism is formed. So in the case of tail part, which doesn't have neither the important pharynx nor the important head region or cephalic region, okay, tongue, cephalic region. So it produces both the pharynx over here and the eye spot over here. Okay, so this is the most wonderful thing about organism. Okay, so planaria is actually, you would have studied that in platyhelminthes. Okay, under the division of platyhelminthes. Platyhelminth means flat. Platy means flat. Helminth means worm. So flat worms. Okay. So this organism, which can develop from the existing body tissue that has been damaged and fragmented into many pieces or damaged into many pieces, then it undergoes regeneration and then new individual is formed from the existing pieces. So if the planaria is cut into 100 pieces, all 100 pieces will be developing into 100 planaria. That's an interesting fact. Okay. Now, when you talk about regeneration and fragmentation, both of them look alike. What is the difference? Because both of them gets fragmented and then they can undergo reproduction. So what is the difference between regeneration and fragmentation? Why they are divided into two? That's a frequently asked question by the students. Now the answer would be, and this is the most usual question asked when it comes to this chapter, so beware with your teachers. Okay, so now when you talk about this question it literally says that fragmentation, okay, fragmentation okay, and then regeneration. Fragmentation, the most important thing that you people should be knowing about is fragmentation. It has to undergo maturation, right? And the next point is it has cellular level organization. This is point number 1 and this is point number 2. But in the case of regeneration, no maturation. It is accidental. Or you can say it is not programmed, and this is programmed process. Okay. And the next one is here they have, you will not believe, they have complex than Spirogyra. They have complex, they have tissue level organization. Okay. And I believe they also have organs developing and triploblastic in nature. So these are the characteristic features of regeneration. So these are the two important differences that you need to convey to your teachers when they ask this question. This is like an interesting question which is already leaked to you, but it will be definitely asked in any one of the tests by your teacher. Okay, so please have this thing in your mind. Okay, next thing that you're going to talk about is spore formation. What is spore formation? Spore formation is where a small enclosed structure. Spore formation is, what is spore? Spore is a small enclosed structure, okay, which will have a reproductive cell inside it. Okay, so a single celled thin or thick walled structure is called spore. Okay, so this is actually found in mushrooms and fungi mostly. Okay, mostly in fungi. So when you talk about fungi, okay, under suitable condition, when do you see mushroom actually sprouting? When do you see mushrooms actually grown? Okay, I hear only in the rainy season. So when in the rainy season, the wood, okay, will be soaked in water. So when there is water, it is possible for it to digest them. Because it will be softened. So when can you eat a hard substance? When it is soaked, right? When it is soaked, it is going to be easy for you to bite and eat it, right? Chew it easily. So same thing, when the wood or the degrading material, when it is provided with water, the bacteria, it is easy for them to act upon because it contains water, so it will not die, it will not lose a lot of water, and then it will start to degrade material. Same way, the fungal material, the mushrooms will also be growing on them, and it is going to take all the materials into them. Okay, so this is why it is called saprotrophs. Saprotrophs. Sapro means dead and decaying organism, and saprotrophic means nutrition. So decaying or dead and decaying matter. Okay, so now how do they reproduce? So from a structure called sporangia, everybody know bread molds, right? So bread molds actually called sporangia and sporogonium. Okay, this is called sporangia. Okay, this sporangia, when it bursts, it actually gives spores out. So these spores will be falling little away from the region where it is present, and then it starts to develop into new filamentous structure, and again spores are formed. So when they burst, they will fall to a different distance, and then a new structure is formed from them. So that's how the reaction or the reproduction literally takes place in the case of spore formation in asexual reproduction. Now, I'll give you another clue. I'll give you another thing. So why do they have to burst and why do they have to spore have to fly? Because these are organisms which relies on the dead and decaying matter. So for them to grow, they would have utilized all the organic matter in this region. So if the other organism which is going to be forming a new life, so if they need to grow, they need to have a fresh batch of organic material. So when they are thrown away from the distance, okay, so they will reach a particular region which will not be utilized. So that's how the dispersion. So this is how dispersion actually takes place. Okay, you understand the point? So that is why spore formation actually always involves bursting of the spore formation unit, which is sporangia, and then that gets dispersed, and then the spore forming organisms are forming spores. Okay, so this is how the spore formation works. So with this, we will actually be looking into some questions, and then after that, we'll see what we can do. So why is budding asexual? So why is budding asexual? Why is it not sexual? Okay, can anyone answer? Because we discussed a lot of points, don't you think? Okay, we'll see the answer. Okay, so it is a type of asexual reproduction because outgrowth or bud due to cell division. So what type of cell division? Mitotic. Always remember this. Remember all the technical terms, because when you study for competitive examinations, it's always important to know the terms rather than what does the term means, because you will be given as an option the term as an option, not the meaning as an option. So it is obvious that you need to know the term, not the meaning. Exactly. Okay. And you should be, it's not like you're not going to get the answer with just the meaning. You should know the term clearly. But you should eventually know the meaning and the term. But term is very important. Okay. So there is only one individual involved. Okay. One single individual involved. So the organism formed, okay, from the existing organism, okay, will be identical. There will be no differences. So that would result in no variation. So it is obvious it is an asexual reproduction. When one parent involved with no genetic differences and two individuals are formed or multiple individuals are formed, that is obvious it is an asexual reproduction. So that's why budding is an asexual reproduction. So what is the difference between fragmentation and regeneration? I think we have already discussed this question, right? So we'll see that again. So reproduction through fragmentation is orchestrated, which is orchestrated means it is organized. It is organized in a proper manner. If you see in an orchestra, at the musical orchestra, they have like different instruments. When they are in a synchronized manner, only then it will become music. If not, it will be observed. Right? So it is an orchestrated or properly planned. Okay, the reproduction of fragmentation is properly planned after maturation. But in the case of regeneration, it is not the case. It is random in nature. Okay, so that's the important thing about difference between fragmentation and regeneration. Okay, so thank you so much for learning with us. If you want to keep learning from AskIITians, please watch our videos. And if you have any questions, you can always stop at us in the class and you can ask them in live classes. And whenever you have any doubt, you can generally post all the doubts in the forum. We have exclusively faculties very attentive to literally look into all the questions and answer them very faster, so that to make the kids feel comfortable, that they should feel confident about it. So put all your questions in the forum so that it will be answered. And even you can actually tag the faculties you require them to answer, so that the required faculty will also answer the question along with your friends and other people who are posting the questions. So thank you so much. Please watch all the AskIITian videos and all the links and get benefited, please. Thank you so much.